Ryanair are an airline that really do divide opinion, and an awful lot of people are not fans of the Irish airline. But I kinda love them, and here's why. This is a £5 note, and this is all today's trip cost me. So what can you expect for so little money? Let's find out. Welcome to Blake Edgington Airborne. Let's get going. This was the first time that I've departed from my local airport for a couple of months, and Birmingham had a little surprise for me. Ryanair have moved check-in desks. If you have luggage to drop off, then you'll now need to head for door A in the old Euro hub, with Ryanair taking over from the area previously used by Thomas Cook. But as it would cost more than my flight, I decided against bringing a suitcase, so with money still in my pocket, I headed up to departures. Security was a breeze on this trip, and I had no need to purchase Fast Track, which would have cost almost as much as my flight, which for more context is even cheaper than a single bag of chocolate in duty free. I was adamant that I was going to stick to my £5 budget though, despite Ryanair's best efforts to convince me otherwise. For example, had I have needed a suitcase, it would have set me back up to 4 times more than my ticket price. Clearly the trick to getting the best value on any flight is to travel light whenever possible. Ryanair's flights depart from gates 1 to 20 at Birmingham, and as is the Ryanair way, boarding had already been called despite the aircraft not even being at the gate, so while my fellow passengers queued up, I took a quick look around. So it's been a while since I've visited my local airport, Birmingham. Not a lot has changed, but it is home, and it's really not a bad airport to transit through to make your flight. Speaking of which, it's time to get on board an aircraft for £5 and fly to Dublin. So for just £5 I'm officially on my way to Dublin on board one of Ryanair's huge fleet of Boeing 737s. The Irish airline is one of the largest in Europe, operating 2,400 daily flights from 241 airports. Ryanair seemed to constantly court controversy and was recently voted the least liked short-haul airline for the 6th year in a row, but despite this, thanks to their extensive network and low fares, passenger numbers continue to rise. Now I know I've mentioned the price a few times, but I was genuinely amazed with this fare, and although time only allowed me to head to Ireland, I could have gone an awful lot further for my money. I booked my ticket during one of Ryanair's many sales, and as you can see, depending on date of travel, £5 could have taken me as far as Poland, Portugal, or even the Canary Islands. Okay, so we've established that a Ryanair flight can be incredibly cheap, but what can you expect on board? The Boeing 737 can accommodate up to 189 passengers in an all-economy class cabin, and depending on the age of the aircraft, you'll either find a new slimline seat with a beautiful Boeing Sky interior, or as was the case on my flight, a slightly older and less subtle cabin. Clearly I prefer the newer design, but this wasn't bad, and all passengers have access to reading lights and air vents above each row. Ryanair have a very strict policy on hand luggage, and only a small bag is permitted free of charge. But if you've paid to carry a wheeled bag, then overhead lockers are available. As Ryanair is a low-cost airline, it's no surprise that you do have to pay for drinks and snacks in flight. You won't find a menu at your seat on boarding, but they can be obtained from the cabin crew, or you can access the full range via the Ryanair app. The amount of items available to purchase on board is incredible, and runs from a simple chocolate bar all the way through to a full meal, and I think it's really good value for money too, with the meal deal costing just €10. As we've seen so far, when flying with Ryanair, pretty much everything is chargeable, including seat selection, and there are various prices that you can pay to choose your ideal seat during booking. Alternatively, you could save some money and leave it to chance, and luckily I was allocated a window seat, so let's see what it has to offer. The seat on board this particular Ryanair 737 is a little different to many airlines, and one difference is that the safety card is fixed to the back of the seat in front of you. That saves the crew time on turnaround, not having to locate or replace any that are missing. The tray table is quite a decent size and certainly offers enough room for onboard purchases. There isn't, however, any adjustment, but a space for drinks is provided on the right hand side should you need it. Something to bear in mind when flying with Ryanair is the lack of a seat pocket, which again saves the crew time on turnaround, but does mean that there is nowhere to keep your personal items for easy access. Now, according to Seat Guru, 30 inches of seat pitch is available with Ryanair, and my experience on the newer seats supports this, but as you can see, things are a little bit tighter on board this older aircraft. Ordinarily at this point of the video, I'd show you what the airline offers in the way of entertainment, such as magazines or seatback TVs, but apart from the shopping guide and menu that we saw earlier, there's nothing provided by Ryanair. But as always, I did share photos and updates from this flight on my social media accounts, which is where you can also find out about upcoming videos and even say hello. So if you're not already following me, you can see my account details on screen now. And with that, a very quick flight with Ryanair is drawing to a close. Make sure to stick around at the end of the video for my final thoughts, but for now, enjoy the landing. So welcome to Dublin after that flight with Ryanair. This is where I'll share with you the good and the bad about today's trip, and we'll start off at Birmingham Airport. It's not the biggest airport in the UK and it doesn't have the most amount of routes, but it's my home airport and I am very fond of it. It's certainly not a bad place to travel through, so thumbs up to Birmingham Airport for a pleasant experience today. One thing I would say about the airport though, a bit confusing, was security. I obviously wear a hat for these videos and I always take it off when I go through security, but the person that was checking the tray said to leave it on. Okay, no problem. And then when I went to go through the scanner, I was told to take it off, so a bit of miscommunication there. And we come to the flight now of Ryanair itself, and it was a perfectly comfortable flight overall. There were a couple of issues though. The legroom, as you'd have seen from the video, was a little bit restrictive for me. It's not the most generous legroom I've ever seen in the world, but it wasn't terrible either. I wasn't particularly uncomfortable on this flight. I'd also have to mention the cabin crew today, and not in a positive light. While they worked hard, I'd say they were a little bit indifferent. They didn't seem particularly engaging with their passengers. No smiles in the cabin really. They just seemed to be going through the motions a bit, and that was a little bit sad to see. Speaking of their service though, one thing I will give credit to Ryanair for is their selection of drinks and snacks. While I didn't buy anything on this flight today because it was so short, it's a really impressive selection. So if you are travelling Ryanair, it's good value for money and there's plenty to choose from. So Ryanair, they're by no means perfect, but as I said at the start of the video, I am fond of them, mainly because, as I said earlier on as well, I paid just £5 for this flight, and that is incredible value for money. And really, do you expect to get the best airline in the world when they have such fantastic fares? I can't say I do. But let me know what you think of Ryanair in the comments section below. Good or bad, I do read all of the comments, and if you've enjoyed this video, please do give me a thumbs up. Of course, if you're new to the channel, do subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you never miss a future video. Most of all though, take care.